welcome to the beginning of the New Orleans Pelicans MyNBA here in NBA2K25. I set out a poll a few weeks ago on what team you guys would be most interested in. It was a toss-up for a second, but the Pelicans ultimately ran away with it. The Clippers won second place, the Bulls won third, the Hawks won fourth, and that was that. The Pelicans will be our team here for our MyNBA series and NBA2K25 in the modern era. Obviously, the Steph era, the newest one they added, is a little disappointing to say the least, but the Pelicans offer a interesting challenge, and we'll go ahead and go through the setup as I talk about it. The Pelicans are very interesting because on one hand, they have a very good roster already. I mean, I don't have to do like, oh, I'm not going to be, number one overall pick. But the problem is we're going to be stuck in purgatory. There's not a lot of ways that the Pelicans just instantly get better than everybody in the Western Conference. The Western Conference is so stacked that the Pelicans are kind of stuck where they're at, and they already went with Dejounte Murray as a big trade in the offseason, giving up some picks, giving up some resources that, in my opinion, would have been better used elsewhere, such as Dyson Daniels, who I was a really big fan of. I don't really see how they can say that Dejounte Murray is going to instantly make them that much better. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher than that. But we have to ride with Dejounte Murray for at least a year. We've got to see how this core can do. And after that, we've got some big decisions to make. If we don't make a finals run here in year one, we have to decide if Brandon Ingram's going to stick around, if Zion Williamson's going to stick around, if CJ McCollum, if Dejounte Murray will stick around. A lot of those guys are going to be up from trade. Obviously, Zion is potentially, hopefully, the future of our organization still. But with the injuries, with the lack of actual care for being in basketball shape, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult. And most of these settings I'll be leaving on default for the moment. I will be going back and editing them maybe once a good slider set comes out. The game is brand new. This is the first day it's officially out, so I'm going to be leaving it at that. We won't be changing any of that. And now let's get a look at all the Pelicans. We are currently a 94 overall, 99 offense, only an 88 defense. 49 and 33 last year. Average player age is only 25. They've had 9 playoff appearances. They have yet to play in a NBA or win an NBA championship. I don't even think they've played in an NBA championship. Fan interest is less than 50%, and the market size is small. And the Pelicans have a lot of interesting places to go. They have the ability to make some big moves if I want to do that after year one or in the middle of year one. Obviously, I'm going to be using auto-generated rookies. I know a lot of you guys probably are like, oh, well, let's use the real class, Cooper Flag. I like to do auto-generated. I like to make my own stories about the prospects, and that's why I usually go with that. New feature in NBA 2K25, farewell tours. Chris Paul is planning to retire at the end of the year. He's going to be going on a farewell tour with the San Antonio Spurs, as we now can officially get our first look at the roster, and that begins with former number one overall pick back in 2019, Zion Williamson. Has he lived up to the hype? 100% not. He had a very, very good rookie season. I mean, amazing rookie year. But he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. He hasn't been able to stay an appropriate weight. He's 284 pounds at 6'6". That is very rough on your knees. But he's so athletic. 95 driving dunk, 90 standing dunk, but he can't shoot as well as I would like. 79 mid-range, 73 three-point shot. I think Zion is obviously going to be a big part of this team for a very long time, but he doesn't offer a lot on defense. I mean, rebounding is very weak. Block is very weak. Perimeter defense is weak. Interior defense is weak. He doesn't necessarily wow you on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm not so sure that Zion can be the number one guy on this team. And in the Pelicans' minds, before I became the general manager, they thought Dejounte Murray was going to do that. And I don't believe he will. Dejounte Murray we really saw what he was truly in Atlanta. I mean, don't get me wrong, 22 points per game is good, 20 points per game is good. He just hasn't been the same since San Antonio. Those last few years in San Antonio even, he wasn't the same player. Yeah, he's a good defender, but he's not as good as he once was. He's not that good on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to shooting or shot creating, but he can, he can do it to some degree. I think we're going to have an interesting year. I think Brandon Ingram's arguably our best player offensively, just overall shot creation, all of that, and he's also a solid defender. So I think Brandon Ingram is going to be a guy I want to emphasize the offense on. CJ McCollum at 33 years old, he has peaked, and he's at the back end of his NBA career. And I think we really need to allow him to take a backseat role. I want to see him in more of like a Mike Conley role rather than a offensive initiator, take over the offense and start ISOing role, because I think he's definitely not going to get to that point anymore in his career, especially at 84 overall, 33 years old. And contract-wise, he's 2 years, $64 million. So we're stuck with him no matter how he performs this year. $33 million this year and $30 million next year. We're stuck with CJ McCollum, but a guy I am very big on, Herb Jones, a 5th overall pick in the 2nd round. He's locked up for 3 years out of Alabama. This guy's really good. I mean, he's had, he hasn't played a whole lot. I mean, 11 points per game last year. He did average 30 minutes a game, so that was his first year really taking over that shooting guard role or small forward role. He can shoot it lights out, and he is an elite defender. I'm leaning towards wanting him to start, but we don't have anywhere to put him. I mean, you've invested all those resources into Dejounte Murray. You have to start Dejounte Murray and then CJ McCollum. So we've got to have Herb Jones and then also Trey Murphy III off the bench as our 1 and 2 guys. These guys are both Trey Murphy III, not nearly as much as Herb Jones, but solid defender, good offensive player. I'm really excited to see how they can grow. Unfortunately, they're also a little older than your, youthful players you would like, 26 and 24. They probably don't have a ton of growth left. Same with Jose Alvarado, a guy who has really came onto the scene as a good 3-and-D backup point guard for the Pelicans, a guy that was really vital in their, couple of playoff wins they had a few years ago. So I think Jose Alvarado is around for a while. He's on a 1-year deal. We'll have to re-sign him at the end of the year. The rest of these guys, don't really see them hitting the court too much besides Jordan Hawkins. I'm a very big Jordan Hawkins believer. He's got a very good 3-ball. He was really good at Connecticut. I mean, don't get me wrong, he didn't have a lot that first year, 7.8 points per game. He shot under 40% from the field and from 3. But, I mean, he didn't really shoot all that much. He didn't have a big role on the team, and obviously he's still not going to have a massive role. But I think Jordan Hawkins can be a solid player for us off the bench. Unfortunately, we kind of already have our backup guard situation settled, but I really want to see him get playing time. I want to see him develop at just 22 years old. He potentially could be our starting point guard or shooting guard of the future, in my opinion. At 6'5", he's a very good 3-point shooter and just an overall shot creator. Then, like I said, Daniel Tice, Javonte Green, those guys are more of your veteran role players. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, I don't really see him having too much impact on the game this year. I mean, he's 23. We know what he is. He's had okay years. I mean, his first year in OKC, he had 7.5 points per game, about 6 rebounds. Shot it okay from the field. I think he has some talent. Obviously, he stuck around in the league for this long. Last year, though, didn't really play much. He's on the roster, but don't expect him to see a lot of playing time. Trey Jemison, 24 years old. He split time with the Wizards and the Grizzlies in the past. He is more of your traditional center. I mean, don't get me wrong, impressive. He's an undrafted guy. Is he going to have a major impact? No. He's an okay rim protector. He can get you offensive boards, maybe not so much defensive boards. I think we'll keep him around. I'm going to put him on the G League, in the G League for right now at 73 overall. I think, he's solid. He's got some talent. We're probably going to hopefully see him on the floor a little bit. Matt Ryan, not really interested in playing him too much unless we need a guy that can just go out there and hit threes. He can't do too much outside of that. Karlo Matkovic, second round pick back in 2022. I don't really think he's been playing all that much. Actually, he hasn't played at all. He's in Bosnia, or from Bosnia. So I assume he spent the last few years as a player overseas. Don't know a whole lot about him. He's already 23. 6'10" power forward who cannot really rim protect and can't rebound all that well and is not an offensive player. I think, you know, I am much rather going to give minutes to Yves Missi over Karlo Matkovic. Missi is the 21st overall pick this past year in the first round for the Pelicans. He's not an offensive-minded center, but he can score in the paint to some degree. Not really going to be doing a bunch of hook shots or anything like that. But I do like what he brings. He can protect the rim somewhat. Not, I mean, about the same as Karlo Matkovic, but he's younger. He's 20 years old. I like what we have in Yves Missi. I think he could be good for us. I mean, it's going to be rough to develop him, especially at a 71 overall, but we're definitely going to try and get him in the game. Jamal Cain is a 25-year-old two-way guy from Oakland. He's 6'7", small forward, power forward. He's a perimeter defender at heart who can shoot to some degree, but he's got pretty good defensive stats overall. I mean, he's good steal, decent perimeter defense, slightly below average, I should say, and then slightly below average interior defense. Don't expect to see him on the court all that much. Antonio Reeves is there as well, 23 years old from Kentucky, 78 three ball, some talent there, some solid handles for a shooting guard, and then he's got pretty below average defense, but we're not really counting on him to play defense. And then finally, we've got Malcolm Hill, who I'm probably going to just release. I want to sign another guy on a two-way contract. This guy, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's got a good three ball, but he's 28 years old. I don't really like holding a 28-year-old guy on a two-way contract, so you guys will probably see after next episode that I will bring in the another third two-way contract. Here is our coaching staff. Willie Green, still the head coach here in New Orleans after some bad years. I will definitely be looking for a replacement in the offseason if we don't go farther than the first or second round. Our head scout is Luis Pollard. Team doctor is Darren Bishop. And then we have to answer to our governor, Danny Roberts, here in New Orleans. This team has a lot of talent, but they have a lot of questions. Like I said, we're sort of stuck in purgatory. I don't really know what exactly will be the right spot to be in. I mean, we've got some good revenue coming in. I'm trying to see our actual contract situation as so we can see just streamlined who is under contract. Jose Alvarado is here for 1 year, and then hopefully we can sign him to a bit of a longer-term deal. Jordan Hawkins is locked up in his rookie deal. Herb Jones is locked up for 3 years. Brandon Ingram has to be a big, big question mark this year. $36 million, and then he can go. But do we want to bring him back? Do we want to re-sign him or trade him at the trade deadline? I'm not so sure. We'll have to see how he goes at the beginning of the season. But let me know, what are your first instincts in the comments down below what we should do with Brandon Ingram? I mean, he's had some disappointing years where he really hasn't taken over like they would have liked. I mean, a year ago, really good. Last year, not so good. But that's a question mark. CJ McCollum. Nobody's really going to want to trade for a 33-year-old declining point guard who is short and not a good defender. And we have him for 2 years. We're kind of stuck with him. Missi is on his rookie contract. Trey Murphy, the third, will have to re-sign to a potentially big contract. So, ultimately, Dejounte Murray's a big contract at $30 million. Zion's a big contract at about $40 million. We've still got Kyra Lewis Jr. and Jonas Valanciunas under contract as trade exceptions. Ultimately, at the end of year one, no matter what happens, I think it's going to have to be a decision between us re-signing Trey Murphy III and Jose Alvarado and Brandon Ingram. Because we're not going to be able to re-sign all three of them, so one of them is going to have to go. And I honestly would not be opposed to seeing Brandon Ingram go. I think Brandon Ingram is a interesting player that just hasn't quite worked out. He's had some really good moments for the Pelicans, don't get me wrong, but his peak just hasn't really done much for the Pelicans. Our only two untouchables, I would say, are Zion and Jordan Hawkins, and we will open up the year against the Bulls next episode. Let's go ahead and see what our lineup is going to be looking like. Right now, they want CJ McCollum, Dejounte Murray, Brandon Ingram, Zion, and Daniel Tice as our starting center because they got rid of Jonas Valanciunas in the offseason. Herb Jones, Trey Murphy III, Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, and Javonte Green. I'm actually going to, instead of Javonte Green, I really want to see Yves Missi get some playing time, so I'm going to bring him in the lineup, and he's going to get those 9 minutes that Javonte Green would otherwise get. I really want to focus on help defense. We're going to go 10 deep on in our bench, and that will be our lineup opening year one with this Pelicans team. The drafts prospects I have not went through and edited yet, so these guys will not stay the same, will not stay the same name or look. Here's a look at the overall draft, and do we even have our draft picks is the question, because they made some trades. They traded for Dejounte Murray. Do we have our draft picks? We have one this year. We have our own this year, and then after that we have a worst with the Bucks, so we will get the better one, and yeah, best with the Pelicans. So wait, no, we will get the best one next year from the Bucks, and then we'll have to swap for the worst one with the Bucks in 2027, and then we have our first round picks. So we do have all of our first round picks, we just don't have our second round picks generally, unfortunately. So that will be interesting to deal with as we move forward throughout the years in this dynasty. I hope you are all excited for this one. Pelicans, very interesting situation, as we've said. I think they've got a lot of fun players, but a lot of fun and bad situations that we've got to figure out. Go ahead, like I said, comment down below what you think, just off of initial ideas, we should do with guys like Brandon Ingram, Dejounte Murray, CJ McCollum, all of that, and how we should handle balancing them playing with the young guys playing. Or can we make a finals run here in year one? That's the ultimate question for this Pelicans roster. As always, though, if you're excited for this series, if you want to make sure to stay up to date on it every upload, subscribe, hit the like button, turn on notifications so you can get notified every time this series uploads. This is going to be running alongside the Appalachian State series, so there will be a bit of a balance between the uploads, but very excited for this series. 2K25's gameplay has been a lot of fun so far. I think it's a very solid start for NBA 2K25, and I hope we can go decades in the future potentially, but let's start 1 year at a time, as we will open up against the Chicago Bulls next episode and potentially make a signing for that last two-way contract spot. I hope you all enjoyed this. Have a great day, and I'll catch you next time.
Soundstripe.